Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Cupid and I am going to be reviewing 28 Years Later. I actually just got back from the movie theater and I figured this is just the best time to give my review before my brain completely doesn't care about it anymore, okay? Disclaimer, this is a review for people who have seen the movie. If you have not seen the movie yet, I'm going to be spoiling it for you, okay? I refuse to give a spoiler-free review. This is going to be me talking candidly about what happened in the movie, and I don't want to be bothered with having to keep things out, all right? So, first things first, I am not too familiar with a 28 Days Later narrative, right? I'm not familiar with the franchise at all. I maybe have seen a little bit from one of the other movies, but I have never seen a full movie through. I couldn't tell you anything about what the movie is about other than zombies. So I know this is a zombie movie. I also did not watch any trailers for this movie before I went and saw it. It's a new thing I'm doing now where I don't want to go into the movie with any real preconceived notions. I want to just go in off of the strength of the poster and the idea. If I can avoid a trailer, I do. And the only time I'm going to watch a trailer is if I'm at the theater. That's a time that I can make an exception for. The first thing that I thought was really good, I liked the cinematography, okay? I thought it was visually interesting, okay? I thought it was compelling in terms of storytelling. There were a lot of interesting shots from various angles, a lot of cuts. So then you have this disorienting effect, almost as if you are maybe going to turn, or that you feel like the situation is going to make a turn. So there's a lot of interesting visuals happening. So the cinematography overall I thought was decent. I thought it was decent enough to say it was good. That's probably the only good thing about the movie that I really liked. Oh, I also liked the zombies. I thought the zombies were interesting looking. I thought that their behaviors were compelling enough for us to want to go more into the zombies, but we really don't in this movie. Yeah, all I really enjoyed for the most part, or the only things I could genuinely say were decent, were the cinematography. Everything else was pretty weak. And by everything else, I mean the writing. First things first, our characters, the main characters are really, really flat. They are plain. We have the father, who I think is the most interesting out of the family. We have the son and we have the mother. The mother's sick and the son is he's kind of just naive. It seems naive and sentimental. Who else? This doctor, right? And so out of all of these characters, the father and the doctor are the most interesting to me. The mother and the son come off very flat. We don't really learn much about them. We don't learn much about anybody in this movie, which could be the main critique as far as why the narrative fell flat, why the writing wasn't that good. One thing I really did not enjoy was the pointless narrative. I felt like throughout the movie, I never quite understood why we were following this father and son, or the son and his mother. I never quite felt like I understood our motivations as a viewer, right? Why are we paying attention to these people? Not only that, but as the story progresses, you begin to almost find no resolution for these narratives that have started. I felt like in the end there was no reward for following these characters. Not only that, but it felt like three different stories. And I would say, yes, it was three different stories, but the following of the young boy, I would break it up into three parts, right? You have him traveling with his father, him traveling with his mother, and then him traveling alone. Each of these three parts feels very different and very disconnected, and they also follow each other in a way that feels disjointed or unearned, right? And when I say unearned, I mean you don't really understand the motivation, okay? I would say the most compelling narrative was when the boy was traveling with his father. I felt like that was where we learned the most about maybe him, his dad, and the world. After this, we are kind of left aimless in this world, right? We're not learning more about it. We're not really understanding why we're here. Not only that, and this is a peeve, right? This is a pet peeve. Both instances when the boy comes to the mainland, there is no legitimate reason to be there, right? So already we're starting this story kind of in this pointless endangerment, right? So I'm assuming in the beginning it's like some coming of age situation with him and his dad. At the second point, he's bringing his mother to the mainland in hopes of finding this doctor, even though that doesn't seem like a strong enough reason to take your ill mother off of this island to a place where he just almost lost his life, right? Like, so this was something that was really confusing for me. Like, he just got off the mainland. He almost lost his life. He could barely fend for himself. But now he's taking his mother onto the mainland to find this doctor that he really doesn't even understand or know exists, or has any idea really of how this doctor can help him. Already there, my disbelief. I have an issue. I have a problem with suspending my disbelief because I'm like, so why are we on this island, right? At the end of the day, it just doesn't seem like these are strong enough motivations. And then as we follow these characters, it just seems aimless. Like they keep running into zombies. Obviously, this is expected. It's a zombie movie. But each victory over the zombies just kind of feels aimless. Like we don't get anywhere. When we finally find this doctor, the doctor can't help. And then on top of not being able to help, the doctor kind of just, I don't want to say he kills, but the mother, that storyline is just cut off completely. It felt really abrupt. And it's like, yes, we know she's going to die, but the way they kind of like cut that short, I felt like a lot of depth was lost, a lot of depth that could have been gained in understanding the mother, understanding the boy, understanding their lives, understanding where they are. I felt like it seemed like the movie was trying to introduce a lot of different ideas to the audience, possibly as a way to like set up some sequels, right? Throwing a lot of ideas at us so that we can already have it in our head that in a sequel we're going to maybe learn more about this. But it's like doing that kind of took away from the movie, actually getting us invested in a single narrative, right? Getting us invested in something specific. It felt like there was nothing specific in the narrative to really cling to. We don't learn about this boy. We don't really learn about Spike. We don't really learn much about him and his relationship with his dad. We can surmise that he has this frustration with his father, lying, being dishonest, but we don't really understand the depth of his frustration with his father. We don't understand their relationship at all, and we don't learn about him the further we go. Not only that, but we don't really see Spike evolve in a visible way, and maybe this is my critique of the actor. I feel like the actor just comes off really young and really weak. I don't ever see any type of strength in this character. He seems also aimless, and maybe that is a point of the directors. Maybe they want to kind of push this aimlessness that the characters embody, but for me it made it difficult to care, right? Like this movie was kind of a snooze fest. I felt like once I got past the interesting way the movie was shot, now I'm kind of just doing my best to not fall asleep. I'm doing my best to finish the movie. I felt like there were multiple instances where the movie could have, where the story, right, the writing could have taken us a bit deeper into the narrative of the world that we're in. Could have explored more about the doctor and what he was wearing on his skin, how that worked. It seemed like it was thrown in. It seemed like it was kind of thrown into the narrative, but then discarded. We never come back to that. The mother, she saves the son by bashing one of the zombies' heads while he slept, and we really never get back to that. We never explore that. There are often these shots of the mother's face when she's like having these like angry moments, and it's almost like they're hinting at something here, but we never really explore that. So there are so many different things that were brought into the narrative that were never explored. We have a pregnant a pregnant zombie. How did she get pregnant? We don't really explore that. There was a after she gave birth and then died, we see this alpha zombie. He comes down and he grabs her, as if he knew her, but we don't go anywhere with a lot of these interesting things, right? We're kind of just following this flat story, this kind of cliche. It's hard to explain. It's like a cliche, really plain narrative with no real sauce. There's nothing special or compelling that is keeping us connected to these characters, or at least in my case. I keep saying that because I know people who enjoyed the movie, and I just don't want to take away from their experience. But it just seemed very plain, and it seemed hard to understand my motivation as a viewer for paying attention. Not only that, but in the end, I just didn't feel rewarded. In the very end, they introduced these characters. This Jimmy character looks like some type of cult. They're all wearing these tracksuits. The vibe completely shifts here. It's like, is it comedic? Is it some type of parody? There were a lot of moments where it felt like it was supposed to be a parody, but at the same time, there were certain things that were off about it. So it wasn't being I couldn't really see it as a parody. So there was I would say there were some inconsistencies with tone, and that could have been an issue just with the storytelling in general. But yeah, in the end, we're introduced to these tracksuit people, but even that it didn't feel compelling enough to me. It felt just random and also kind of weird and boring. I don't know. I don't want to sound like, a Debbie Downer, but it just seemed kind of weird, and I didn't really cling to that. That didn't make me go, ooh, I want to know more about what's happening there. It just seemed odd. On top of the other numerous throw-ins that we never really explore, what is this alpha zombie? If you've never watched a 28 Days Later movie, maybe you would know if you have watched them, but if you've never watched, there's no type of exposition. And, exposition doesn't have to be super explicit. There's never really any effort in the storytelling to kind of connect these dots to a viewer. You're kind of just watching these plain characters, walk around, and of course they're encountering zombies, so that's where you get your zombie kills, that's where you get your interesting zombie visuals. But then the background story with these characters is just so forgettable, and it's so forgettable, it's annoying, because the rest of the movie is you want the movie to be good, but because this particular thing that you have to follow is so forgettable, and it makes you want to go to sleep, it kind of ruined the whole movie for me. I'm trying not to be rude, but yeah, I felt like the whole time I just wanted to go to sleep. It was this feeling of, man, I cannot just leave because the movie's not over. Damn, the movie is still going. And I felt like that specifically because the main storyline was not interesting. The main storyline was garbage. It was a lullaby. I think what could have saved it is if we maybe knew more about Spike. I feel like if we got to know him a bit more, emotionally, the things that he's seen that we haven't seen, right? Obviously, he's getting fed up with his father. I feel like if we could have seen him be a bit more active, which I want to give him credit because he especially in the end, I felt like he definitely was stepping up more, but I feel like just seeing him being more active in the story as opposed to just kind of quiet. He's kind of this quiet observer, and he speaks sometimes, obviously throughout the movie he speaks, but it's when he does speak, it's kind of short, it's kind of stale, it's giving nothing, right? We don't gain anything from when he speaks. When the mother speaks and when the doctor speak, I feel like we definitely got some build up in the story, in terms of just emotional connection, some exposition about the zombies. But other than that, it just felt like it's almost like the narrative was just kind of idle and floating. There was no real point of the narrative, and it did feel like they were trying to throw a lot at you. so that you could be curious about sequels. That seemed like the main focus of this narrative was it seemed like the whole movie was set up to get you interested in sequels as opposed to like telling a compelling story. Maybe because I haven't seen other 28 Days Laters, I'm not familiar with the storytelling style. Maybe this is a style of the movie. But for me, I feel like it just seemed pointless. I feel like I walked away with nothing. I feel like I started and ended the movie in the same place as a viewer, right? I didn't gain anything. I didn't learn anything. I didn't, nothing happened. No, there was no transformation from the beginning to the end of this movie. This movie could have not have been made. Like, not to be rude, I hate to, I don't want to, I was actually excited to give this movie a review because I love zombie movies. I love scary movies. I love, action thriller. I'm not too much into gore, but I love zombie. I love horror, right? And so I was really excited to give this movie a review and see it. And I thought the review would maybe be a bit more exciting. But unfortunately, like I said, I kind of wanted to go to sleep the whole movie. I felt really bored. So I would give this movie a 3 out of 10. It was a complete snooze fest. Cinematography was decent, but other than that, the writing really lacked. And it just wasn't enough to keep me interested. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm really curious to see if other people enjoyed this movie. I'm actually going to listen to some reviews now once I get done recording because I'm so curious to see if I'm the only one that felt like they really could have done more with the story. So anyway, make sure to leave a comment if you like. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more videos from me, then make sure you give this video a like. And make sure to subscribe so that you can see more videos. Have a great night.